Hello and welcome. So moving straight on with your comments, and there are some questions to talk about. A nice warm-up short question to begin with. The others, there aren't many, but I think the answers, well, the questions are quite long in themselves. Okay, Bhante, can an adult ordain without parent permission, especially if you have come from non-Buddhist countries? Technically, if your parents or a parent is still alive, then you do require their permission technically, but you must inquire of the monastery where you are intending to ordain. They may have other ideas and opinions with regards to this. If you're having difficulty explaining what you're doing to parents, maybe you're not, maybe you don't have access to your parents, but often the question is, my parents do not want me to ordain. Then you must not only remind them, but remind yourself when you ordain as a Buddhist monk or nun, you are not taking lifetime vows, you are not ordaining for life. That may be your intention, I hope it is, it certainly was mine, but this doesn't need to be a part of the conversation, because after all, until you have tried living as a monk, after all of the training that involves prior to ordination, and then trying to remain ordained in the robes, which is by far the hardest part, it may be you may not continue for more than a few months, years, decades, may not be that you remain in the robes for life. So don't cross that bridge before you get to it. Don't let that be a problem. You can say, as if you're going on a retreat. Some people go on 14-day retreats or even 30-day retreats, 3-month sabbaticals, maybe travelling. They have no qualms about requesting the permission of their parents for that. Many people, especially in the West, at quite a young age by comparison to the East, maybe at the age of 18 or even younger, 16, go away to college or university for many years away from their parents and the family. And the parents and their family are very pleased and proud that they're doing that. Even to go and join the armed forces and fight in a war away from your home country, under orders, risking your life, training hard, and even killing people. Oh, you're a proud they're proud to have such a heroic member of the family going away, doing all this for many years. So to just simply be going abroad or in your own country, to be going to a monastery whereby you're just going to be taking some time to practice keeping moral virtue, practice meditation and develop your mind, shouldn't be too much of a difficult thing to request of them. So you just need their agreement, and it would be nice for you if they also thought that that was a good idea too. And this is what is required by way of permission. The reason behind that rule in the first place is simply that it is often the case now, even in Eastern parts of the world, more so than perhaps Western parts of the world, that the family is more close-knit and there are responsibilities for children and their siblings towards parents for their care, even support financially. And it is a requirement when you enter into monastic life that you are not only free from debt, financial encumbrance because you can no longer deal with that or handle money, but that you are free from all of those duties, those responsibilities that you may have. So you need to be free from the responsibility of having to take care of your parents. That isn't to say, when you have been ordained for some time, if no one else is at hand, that you might not still be called upon to take some part in the care of your parents later on. And that is usually okay and agreed. So I hope that explains the reasoning a little bit behind the question, as well as the answer to the question. So this is quite long, but I will read it because it's questions I received in an email about meditation, but questions that apply to most of us in our practice, and it is good that we can talk about samadhi, meditation. This is, after all, a major part of the practice and more pertinent, more appropriate than many other subjects we may also encounter. Okay. I keep trying all your suggestions from the videos, but it's too difficult. Even I can't sitting like you and maintain the good posture. Plus, without that cushion, the 30 minutes meditation is already really full of pain. So the questions are related to that. I missed the first part. It's difficult for me to stay long in meditation without meditation cushion. Okay, there is really no harm or problem with you using a meditation cushion. Some people have to sit in a chair. Where I'm from, in the West, we are not used to sitting on the floor like this. We sit in chairs at work, we sit in chairs when we're going to work, in the car or on the bus or on the train. We in school, in our education, apart from perhaps when we're very little, when we might sit on the floor like this, not quite like this, in a slightly different cross-legged sitting posture. But apart from that, we are always trained and living sitting in chairs. So to sit on the floor isn't something that will immediately come naturally to everybody. So be kind to yourself. This is the first rule of meditation. Respect your body for what it is and how it is, its age, its condition, and don't try to push it to limits for ascetic reasons or for endurance purposes. But to some extent, obviously, we're not to overindulge in comfort. So if one is sitting in a chair, and I have explained this in these meditation videos you refer to, so I won't go into that, but maybe you're rushing, pushing yourself too quickly. Now this mostly, I think, is going to be the answer that relates to a lot of these questions with regards to meditation. The reason we call this is practice is because it's like learning to play the violin. One would have to practice for many hours, many years before one can play the violin proficiently. I would imagine. I can't play such a thing. But we don't expect after a few minutes watching a video and listening to somebody explaining what can be done to be able to immediately do it. One has to train one's both physical and mental attributes to that skill of playing the violin, and it takes a long time. So we do this gradually. Please don't try and start in the half lotus. Start in what we call the Burmese position, with this right leg just on the floor like that, in front of the left leg, like this. Then you have both knees, perhaps they're up there a little, that's okay. Eventually they will, with time, again, time, patience, will settle down. If you raise your bottom, so you're on a cushion at the back, your knees will more naturally already be on the floor, which is why people use the cushions. But of course, when they take the cushion away, what happens? Their knees pop up again. So they have to go through the learning process. Now, I'm not saying anyone will want to take the cushion away, but my reservations about any accessories to meditation, as you know, us monks have very little in the way of accessories. We have none. We have 8 things we own in the whole wide world. But our just basic requirements are a floor to sit on. And knowing that it was possible, seeing people around me that was possible, I thought, well, what am I going to do what would I do without a cushion? And I wanted to meditate. Okay, there's all kinds of tricks. One can pile up some sand if you're on the beach, or some grass if you're in a field, sit on the root of a tree, raising your bottom, using even an empty water bottle works. But why? If you can just let your body relax with time, eventually it will just be able to sit like this. If there are millions, literally, of people all over the world who sit without difficulty like this, then so can you. But the most important thing to remember is it will not be, in my case it had to be quite quick because I jumped in at the deep end, was immersed in monastic life, there wasn't really an alternative. But that was a more ascetic style of practice I chose in order for me to help with the battle I had against my own personal defilements, we call kilesas, in order to come from a very comfortable worldly life into what is seemingly, by comparison, a very uncomfortable monastic life. I thought, right, if you're going for this, go for it 100%. But most people are not in that situation. Your aim is to learn to meditate, to practice meditation. Be kind to your body, make sure if you need the cushion, you have the cushion. And you spend some time, as I did at the beginning before I started talking to you, getting everything in the right place so you don't have to move and shuffle around during your meditation time. I'm not meditating now, but even if I sit for the meal or sit to talk to some people who come to visit, I sit, I spend some time, take a couple of breaths in order that I can give the meal or those people my full attention, you in this case, my full attention, and not be continuously moving around, doing a jig, a dance in front of you. Because this is distracting not only for you, but for me. If I become uncomfortable halfway through talking, halfway through answering a question, it may put me off my train of thought. So to avoid that, you establish a comfortable position that is suitable for your body and what resources you have available, which are dependent on your body, its age, its condition, and how you are now at this very moment. You can gradually, with time, reduce maybe the height of the cushion, the thickness of the cushion, or the mat. As I've said to many people, ensure, very importantly, ensure your clothing is very loose, no tight belts and certainly no tight jeans. And if you can, sit on a fairly flat, firm surface, like a hard floor or a grass mat in this case, not a soft, many even yoga mats are a little bit too thick, but that is as thick as it should get. These thick sort of 2-inch foam cushions only produce little, they fill in the gaps. This is how they give you the impression of comfort, by squashing down where you have protrusions and filling in the gaps where you have recesses. But all this does is cut off the blood supply in those places, and that then gives you pins and needles and numbness. When you're on a firm, flat surface, your body finds its own center of gravity, but also all the places in contact do not become compressed. So I'm not sure that's the main point of your question, but please use your cushion, it's fine, don't have unbearable pain. This is what you go on to say. Do I continue to use the cushion, or should I face the reality of pain? I've done, so yeah, no, don't, for a little while, if it's not working for you, use the cushion. As I say, some people use a chair, but in a chair they must sit upright, not be leaning on the arms. If you can have a chair without arms, or even a stool, it is better, because then your spine is awake. Upright, it means awake. As soon as you start slouching one way or the other, you will be subject to tiredness, lethargy, falling asleep, dozing off, nodding. Okay, in meditation, sometimes I stay in complete emptiness. Can't feel any breath or movement of anything. I can't feel my object meditation. Everything is just totally empty. In this moment, I got confused. What should I do when I face this condition again in meditation? Normally I just recognize the situation as empty. I don't know what I should do. Okay, so as soon as you are getting confused, you are no longer experiencing sunyata, emptiness, which is quite a high level of achievement in meditation. So what we more likely confuse with emptiness is a real zoning out, spacing out, which is not the aim, the objective of meditation. It can be very nice, calming, relaxing, both for the body and for the mind, but it is not what we're looking to do. Not space out, zone out. That can happen. It's not like sleeping, it's not like dreaming. It is, as it sounds, a sort of a spacious, still perhaps aware, but not so distracted, however, numbness. You're shutting off rather than experiencing. And as soon as you've lost your meditation object in that state, if you haven't entered into the higher levels of absorbed meditation, we call samadhi, and then later jhanas, you may well be just spacing out without the ability to actually gain any liberation, freedom or insight from the experience, and therefore move on no further. The minute the confusion arises as to what this is, what you should do, panic, either liking or disliking for this mind state, is the moment where that has gone anyway, because this thought has arisen. So you're saying there is no totally empty, there is feel any breath or movement or anything. You don't say there is no thought, but whilst there is thought, this is not emptiness. This is just the body coming into a very comfortable state of relaxation. But whilst the mind continues to think, you haven't developed the stage of being secluded from the five hindrances of sensual desire, ill will, tiredness, doubt, and restlessness and worry and doubt. You're not experiencing seclusion from those five hindrances because you're not liking, or you are liking, this what is phenomena arising. Phenomena is just what is happening in what you are feeling, sensing, whether it's through what you're seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, or the thoughts that are arising. You're still experiencing them. So you're not absorbed in seclusion from the five hindrances. So you're still in the early stages leading up to deep absorption, but the body is becoming calmer. The breath now, it may become very subtle and harder to detect, but it hasn't stopped. Bring your attention, your awareness back to that. So with that, in answer to your question, what should you do? Don't judge what you feel, what you think about the situation that has arisen. Just know as it is, as you say, this is the feeling of being totally empty. and come back to your meditation object, watching the breath, if that's what it is. In fact, that's what I'd recommend it should be. If you haven't tried that, try that. I can't think of better meditation objects for even advanced meditators than the breath, and following the teachings of the Buddha through the Anapanasati Sutta is by far the easiest way for most people to practice meditation. And everything else is just because people don't have the determination to pursue that and get bored and want to spice things up. So if you pursue it to jhana levels, you're not going to want to change that and spice things up. In fact, you will have to do very little watching the breath, very little metta bhavana, very little body scanning, very little anything. You'll be able to go into samadhi jhanas very quickly once you are practiced, and practiced is the key word. It's time, the time it takes for us to be able to do this. It doesn't happen overnight watching a few videos. It takes a long time, years. But in the context of the time we have, it isn't so long. Some of us, it's more quick than others. Some people, it maybe never happens at all. But if they were to really follow the instructions of the Buddha, they are really keeping sila, and they're really just determinedly, is that a word? Or without, if they're totally committed to meditation, then, and they are practicing, and they let nothing disturb them, then they will, we all will, you all will get there eventually. Otherwise, there would not be this very successful Buddha Sasana. Now, okay, yes, a lot of it can survive for other reasons, as a big religion and an organized, established thing in some countries, and interesting thing in others. Things survive by that very nature. But the underlying proof of the success of the teachings of the Buddha is what you can see in the results, and those results can be experienced by yourself. And that is ultimately which is what has kept faith in this practice and kept it going for so long. So this emptiness I'm going to put in the category as a feeling of phenomena, or an absence of feeling of phenomena, which is much the same thing. And then you go on to say that you are experiencing, I feel burning inside. Sometimes it stays through all the meditation until shivering after I'd finished the meditation. Well, you know, the body temperature is going to heat up, cool down. This is going to be due to both physical reasons, and also can be stimulated mentally. I mean, if we get very anxious, we'll start to sweat and seemingly feel like we're heating up. If we have just eaten a meal and the body's digesting, then the body also will heat up. Certain stimulants like coffee might make you feel hot, caffeine. That's the physical side, and the mental side, as I just explained, anxiety can also be create that kind of overall heat. Also, there can be a central feeling of heating up. If you can really focus your attention now on the breath and the cooling nature of the breath, the temperature of the breath as you breathe in, it's cool, and as you breathe out, it has reached the body temperature, so has become almost undetectable and body temperature. Then you are also bringing your secondary point of attention to the temperature aspect of your body, the fourth element. So we have four elements: solidity, which is all of our heavy parts to our body, our bones, our flesh; liquidity, liquid parts of our body, all of the blood and lymphatic system, water, other kinds of fluids in our body floating around. There is air, wind, the gaseous nature element, which is the air we're breathing in and the breathing out in the voidness of our body, even the area we're breathing into as we observe the breath breathing in through our nose. Where is it going? It's like this is the doorway into a cave, and the air is coming into the cave, cooling the cave. And as you breathe out, the air is going out through this cave, through the same door, exiting the cave, warmed up from being in the cave. This is the air moving around our body. And then finally the temperature or fire element, which is this, in the sense of the body, which is not at the moment of combustion, is just high temperature, medium, low. All elements will ultimately at a temperature combust into fire, then becoming maybe liquid, maybe becoming gas, and so on. All elements, the four elements, are subject to anicca. They are conditioned things, because they also can change their properties, their form. Know this is another phenomena. This burning, this feeling is phenomena. Sankhara, just things. But your thinking is making it something more. Try not to think about it, just know again, like with the feeling of nothing happening or a kind of emptiness, just know this is burning, this is heat, and let it go and just come back to watching the breath. And the breath in itself will be cooling. This will hopefully help with the shivering afterwards. But again, this is even after your meditation, simply just phenomena. With all of these comments and what I'm responding, my response to these comments, I'm basing it on the understanding that when we sit to meditate, you haven't just had a big meal or a hot drink. You're not in a rush to go somewhere afterwards. You are allowing room and space either side of meditation time to allow your body to be in good condition to practice meditation. This is why I say first thing in the morning when you wake up is a very good time to practice meditation, as well as last thing in the day before you go to sleep is a very good time to practice meditation also, because the duties of the day have been dealt with, your responsibilities dealt with. You don't have to be thinking about food or the next meal. Maybe in the morning you might think about the day ahead, but this is where it's important to train the mind not to do that. There's plenty of time for that to happen after the determined period of meditation when you have finished. And the fourth of these, thank you for numbering them, it does help actually. There is a glitch of light that continues coming during my meditation. So rather than go through your whole description, I appreciate what you mean, and it comes and goes, and sometimes it's bright. I'm not really sure what you're saying, that you're avoiding it. I don't know how you can avoid it. Note it and come back to you're describing the light as coming from behind you in one point here. We can only really imagine what we're used to seeing. So we should be imagining from a perspective of how we see things, which is usually a light's coming, you can point your eyes towards the source of light. Of course, if there's a strong light behind you, you would know it's there if your eyes were open, and you might turn to look at it. But either way, from whichever direction, light is, we call, in some respects of meditation, nimitta, a sign, but nimitta often refers to the signs of lights, flashing lights, pretty lights, bright lights, dull lights, all manifestations of visions that can be considered as signs, but again, not to get enthralled with, embroiled in, trapped by. Come back, know it as phenomena of seeing, note it if you have to, but just come back to watching your meditation object of the breath. And it will, by of its own accord, go away. Okay, I'm going to read this next question. It's quite long, but I think it'll be a very short answer. I have a very serious doubt. I am a student of science, and I'm very inspired by revolutionary ideas. Recently, I dwelled in these matter of inner self and all. I have come across videos where people tell that when you are silent, many secrets open to you. Do you think it's true? Because what I felt when AI was silent was infinite, no, that means I think. When I was silent, was infinite happiness for myself and not answers to questions. That theoretical physics and pure mathematics is trying to answer. So is that they are befooling us, or it is real possible? Way too much thinking. You're a scientist and you want to know how everything works. If you want to sail across the ocean, you don't have to be a shipbuilder. A rudimentary understanding of how the ship works is perhaps necessary, especially if sailing alone. But other than that, you can be a passenger, or you can even sail the ship, the yacht, across the ocean. You don't have to build it. If you want to be a shipbuilder, you can be that. If you want to be a scientist, you can be that. Even a philosopher, you can be that. If you want to be a meditator, let all this go. Let your mind have time to just settle, and it will become calm. Your body to settle, and it will relax. And ask no questions. The insight you may hear referred to in Buddhist circles, or vipassana, seeing clearly, that comes from an emptiness, a spacious conscious awareness, an absorbed state of meditation. That insight, those answers are coming from seeing clearly, as we use the word vipassana to often refer to a type of meditation, but it just means seeing clearly. But you are seeing clearly the nature of existence. Anicca, that all things are impermanent; dukkha, that all things are suffering; and anatta, that we are not self. All things are out of our control. So this reference you make to this inner self, there is no inner self any more than there's an outer self. You're a physical body, a sack of blood and flesh and bones, a thinking brain like an onboard computer to control that lot, but your mind that experiences all of this phenomena going on as a result of these five khandhas of this body, this physical body, and then this thinking brain, and this consciousness and the thought process that using memory and opinions and judgment puts everything together, is what we're trying to move a little bit aside from, put a little bit of distance between us and that we consider to be our self. So whether I am a monk here now or the businessman I used to be back then, there's no reason why I couldn't then, as I did, sit and meditate and not be that person anymore. As when I'm sitting in meditation here and now, I'm not this person you're seeing, hearing now, because all you're doing is seeing and hearing. I'm not seeing or hearing anymore, I'm just experiencing with my conscious awareness, my mind, we call the citta, not the thinking brain, Vedana consciousness, which is basically putting together our senses of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting and touching mathematically and coming up with the sum of 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 4. But just knowing that this is an experience of, let's say, joy, or an experience of suffering, an experience of happiness, or an experience of sadness. That which is knowing and observing, witnessing that, is neither happy nor sad, joyous or suffering. It is just knowing. This is the place we find in meditation. That is the insight. And that clearly shows us the nature of not self, but also the nature of suffering, dukkha, and the nature of impermanence of all these phenomena we consider, including these physical bodies and these thinking brains, which are subject to aging, sickness and death, therefore very impermanent. But all conditioned things, as I spoke about just a moment ago with the elements, even the rocks that make the Himalayan mountains, will not always be there in that form. So you can spend your time, your life, in science, and you can do that also. You may have to have a job, a career, a businessman, a farmer, a trader, whatever you do. It may be necessary for you to continue to do that, but that is aside from your practice. The practice, the Buddhist teachings on meditation are very scientific in their own way. They're scientific in the way that they're studying what isn't mathematical, but what is the truth of suffering, and its very cause. Only knowing that cause of suffering, and to do that, seeing the end of suffering via the path leading to the end of suffering, the Noble Eightfold Path. So practicing Sila, Samadhi, Panya, can you get true insight and wisdom and know all of the answers that are necessary for you to know. Now, it could be that it's your determination to establish where the beginning of the universe was and where the end of the universe will be, and everything that's made it work in the interim period, where we will be next week, next year, in the next 25 years. That's not going to help you if you die, have an accident tomorrow, or you're just bedbound, knowing all of this stuff. And when you die, that intellectually gained knowledge will be gone, just like that. What will help you now is practicing Sila, Samadhi, Panya to bring about a more peaceful, tranquil, calm state of mind, relaxed body, and an enjoyable life, which can then be better placed to go on and pursue your scientific activities. But that is not where you find the answers that we need, the end of suffering. That is by understanding desire. Oh, wrong way. Well, this person doesn't have any strong desires in regards to sexuality, but I do have strong desires and cravings for acceptance and getting approval from other people, the same and opposite sex. I very much seek affirmation for all that I'm doing. Sometimes it feels like a kind of addiction. I'm aware that it's kind of pointless. Could you, Bhante, give some guidance as to how to deal with such cravings? Yes, well, there we go. You've answered the question. You know it's pointless. What other people think of you is, as long as you haven't offended, upset, hurt them, if it's just an opinion about the way you do things, the way that is not constructive or helpful to your cause, then it is irrelevant and pointless, certainly, to worry about it. It is to some extent addictive, the crave for fame, gain. We have these worldly winds, praise and fame, gain and loss. I've forgotten the other 2. So it makes 8 because it has its opposites. But what you're referring to here is like fame and gain, praise and loss. People crave and do get addicted to fame and crave, more praise, more people in the audience clapping, more number one hits, if that makes sense anymore, in the music charts, more people to watch your latest movie, and at work, bosses patting you on the back saying well done, and in terms of education, qualifications, letters after your name, PhDs. People crave and become very addicted to this. And yes, it's very, in some practical sense, it is part of a career path, but it has to be seen as just that, not essential to the freedom of suffering. Just a way to help you also practice separately from your career path to become free from suffering through the practice of Sila Samadhi Buddhism. Take Buddhism out of your career. You can use all you gain and the tools from Buddhism in your career to further it. But you cannot use your career to further your development in the practice of Buddhism. This way, you're seeing clearly the truth and how you should see what these cravings for praise and people's approval is. It's just like trying to draw lines in water. They disappear. You will become, as a famous person, you can lose praise and fame, lose that just as quickly as you gained it. Like gaining money, it can be lost, or wealth can be lost just as quickly as you gain it. Or maybe not, but it's impermanent, like everything else. If you're not practicing Sila, you're not going to ever see this. Now I'm addressing that answer directly to the questioner here. If you're wanting to go and have vodka with Uncle Boris, or these kind of things, because it's socially acceptable in your country, we are never going to see this. Because what we do by introducing intoxicants into our lives in this way, whatever excuses there are, is we lose the ability to see clearly and have mindfulness, because rather than approach the suffering, see the suffering, and therefore be able to see the cause, we mask it. Now it may be, well, I'm only drinking because it's a social thing to do, but why are the others drinking? Because it helps and it breaks the ice, it helps with the atmosphere, it makes it a more conducive party and an environment for everyone to be in. The introduction of something that affects the mind negatively. It takes away people's inhibitions. It takes away people's anxieties. So, like I said with the other meditation questions, because this isn't specifically a meditation question, but it applies to meditation also. If you're meditating with others, you may draw comparisons between others about their practice and yours, even your teacher's practice and yours. Never be doing this. Learn from your teachers, learn from others, but the only practitioner you should ever be focusing on as far as the results are concerned are your own. And people say to me, someone said to me on the telephone, phoning from a monastery on retreat in Thailand. Okay, to break the ice and be polite, but how is your practice going, Bhante? I said, ask yourself that question. How is your practice going? Why are you on the phone to me? Using a phone. I didn't answer this phone call. After 6 missed calls, I called the person back because I don't have my phone on, let alone on a noise. I see, however, the missed calls later on, and I thought the man might be in some difficulty, so I returned the call. He was just wanting to know how my practice was going here in Sri Lanka. He was bored, clearly, with the retreat, even though given the best opportunity possible in a monastery I know, in Thailand, with wonderful teachers, he wanted to inquire as to what I was up to. So he was not focusing on the practice in hand, the opportunity he had. And we all do this. Distract ourselves with something. Now that was one way of doing it, distracting himself, a seemingly very good and just cause and reason. And, you know, intoxicants are just another form of distraction. Okay. Oh, and I think this is the last question. Well, for today, hope it's not the last question ever. Aloha. Well, does that mean you're from Hawaii? Wish I could be a monk. Well, that's an easy answer. And I have answered you directly already. You can. Go for it. Anumodana, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And very good luck with that. Because, not luck in the sense of a superstitious way, but I will give you my blessings and wish you can keep that determination up, and that you find the opportunity to be a monk. If there is a particular obstacle in your way, please email me, write to me, ask me if I can help you or others about that. Watch the videos on how to become a monk already here on this channel. But it doesn't require anything other than for you to find somewhere, turn up there and make the determination to do it. But that is the easy bit. Staying a monk, staying ordained is the work, the hard bit. Does it get easier? Well, some say it doesn't really get very much easier. I personally think it does get easier with time, if you're practicing. If you get very mixed up in community life and busy and have lots of chores, maybe that becomes like a different kind of samsara. I'm fortunately not in that situation and can dedicate my time to the practice, avoiding distraction. And this is what we should try to do, without expectation, because this will only lead to disappointment, without judgment, just know things as they are, as phenomena, arising, staying a while, passing away. Just coming back to our meditation object, our breath, as it is here and now in this present moment. So on that final point, be happy, stay well. Until next time, Sukhi Hotu.